Hello everyone, Rare Modder Reviews here, and today we have the premium Bandai exclusive Master Grade Stark Jegan. So this is a kit I ironically feel like I kind of manifested into reality when I did my review of the high grade Stark Jegan almost about a year ago. And honestly, I'm just really glad they actually finally made this kit. For those of you who do not know, they made the Master Grade Jegan about 3-4 years ago, and when that thing came out, a lot of people were speculating premium Bandai would have a lot of releases for the Jegan using that thing's structure. And surprisingly, so far they've only released about 2 alternate versions of the Jegan, that being the Jegan Type D and a Armor Ray type color scheme for it, which is basically it in white and red. So the fact that we haven't had this kit, years ago, among others, is pretty surprising. But there's no telling what holds for us in the future when it comes to the Jegan. So moving on along here into some colors. I've got to say I'm really a big fan of the color scheme they chose for this kit here. Instead of just going with this teal kind of color you usually have for the Jegans and really just over a lot of Federation grunts, they went ahead and actually gave us kind of this brownish color for the missile pods and really just over a lot of the armor. I don't know if it's making out quite well from the video here. There of course is some grays and stuff, like for these side armors here. This is a gray in contrast to the, like I said, it's brownish color for a lot of the other armors, and it really helps make some of the thrusters and whatnot on this thing pop too. As you see, it's kind of a brown here, and then a gray for the thrusters and whatnot. And a lot of the parts here are greatly color separately, even the thrusters. This was 2 parts that you kind of put inside here to make the thrusters, so you don't have to paint that at all. Going around for the thrusters and whatnot, you have the inner frame here that's covered by the yellow parts of the thrusters, and of course the teal armor. And again, I'm just very satisfied with it. Even on the bottom of the feet here, these is all gray parts that you slap over the tail and whatnot, and then it's just other shades of green here for the bottoms of the legs. Color separation is very good. There unfortunately are some bad nubs on this kit, but I don't have some of the tools that some of you might, glass files and whatnot, so maybe that'll help out a lot with some of those pieces with the bad nubs. But one thing I also want to point out here is going to be another piece too. I'll show it off later, but this thing uses the plastic stickers, which I believe first started out with the Master Grade, the Perfect Grade Unleashed Arc 78. And of course, it did make it its way to the Master Grade EX with the Strike Freedom. So these aren't normal stickers you find here on the missile pods. This is a plastic sticker, so it's almost like a translucent piece, except it's a sticker. And it really, in my opinion, really makes these missile pods here pop out, and I just really love them. And I'm trying to think if there's other pieces with the plastic stickers. I know there's one on that's right, there we go. There's a couple more on the back of these thrusters here. I'm guessing these are supposed to be cameras, because again, these use the plastic stickers, and I just really love that. It really, again, just makes these areas here pop. So I feel like I've kind of gone over all that stuff in plenty of detail, so we're going to go ahead and go to accessories. So I already kind of did it, but this little back of the thruster here can move. Now this thing's weird because it feels kind of loose and floppy, but it isn't. I think I can even shake test this thing, and it's not moving. Again, it's in the same position where I shook it. So no complaints with that one, really. It's kind of a bit deceiving. These little tail binders here can move up and down. Now, I'm going to bring out the high grade for a bit of comparison later, but I can't say just right now, these don't move as much as the high grades did. Then again, I'm not sure if the high grades were supposed to move as much as they do, but moving on. So this thrust in the back here is static. It does not move. However, the rare armor here does move quite a bit. So when I get onto the legs, you'll see just how great that is. The head actually has a wide range of movement. This would be able to move 360, but because of the whatchamacallit, The thrusters and all that, it's kind of static. The hand just fell off, so give me a second to put this back on. But anyway, the hat can move. Oop, I was gonna say forward and back, but then it kind of came off. Jeez. Let me get it back in. So yes, the head can move forward and back quite a bit, and it can move up a decent amount too. So for aerial poses, this would be great. The range of movement you can get, and it can move down a decent amount as well. So if you want to make him look sad for some reason, you can definitely do that. The arms here, they can move 360, but it's a bit hampered with these giant missile pods. And I'm not sure if you guys quite make that out, but the arms can move out a little bit here in that little recessed joint you can see. Of course, it's going to be the same for the other one as well. Be easy to see without these missile pods. It make it a little awkward to get in position, but I think you get the gist of it. 360 below the shoulder there. The arms can only move out about here. They might be able to move out a bit more, but the combination of, again, the shoulder armor and the missile pods make that a little difficult. So, of course, there's going to be a perfect bend out of the arm there. No complaints with that whatsoever. Of course, the hand is on a ball joint, so that can spin around. And that's one pet peeve I have about some of these hands. These hands do not want to stay in at all, but we don't really need the hands here to show that off. It has this joint that can go in like that. Fortunately, it cannot go out the other way, so you won't be able to do push-ups with this guy. Now, this thing is strange because it has like a 3.0 style thumb, but that's it. No 3.0 style hand, it's just a thumb. So that, of course, can go 360 as well. And I showed it, but I didn't really say it, so I'm going to do it again. The thumb, again, there can move inward, so that's cool. It's kind of unfortunate. It's only the thumb that has that wide range of movement, but I'm going to go ahead and show it off now since this thing came off. So this thing has two sets of, multiple sets of hands, but the others I'm going to show off with accessories later a bit more, but of course, these are the holding hands. These are the trigger style hands. And, well, it's already in the other hand, but this is the open hand. So I'm going to put this one up because I find these stay in a bit more than those fists. I don't know why those fists refuse to stay in. Now, moving onwards, we have the side armor here. Those can move out. Front ones can move up pretty far. And you can see some nice detail under there. The thrusters and all that. The legs can move pretty high up. Not quite touching its face, but you get where I'm going here. And again, because the back armor is so nice, and you can even actually bend it up to here, so you can do some nice pulls with this thing. So despite all this heavy, bulky armor, as you're gonna see right here, and I get a little nervous with these legs, but because they feel so tight, but you can do a split with this thing. So I'm not sure why you'd want this guy to do a split, but he can do it, so let that be known. This thing also has one of those joints. I'm not sure if you guys can quite make that out, but it's like kind of on one of those hinges. So darker there, but I think you can sort of see the gist of it there. But I already kind of showed that off, but again, just to show it off a little bit more. This thing has like a triple joint or something there, I don't know, but it can move a lot. I'd say the thruster has some movement, but it's really put on by a ball joint, so I don't think the little wiggle I get from it kind of counts. But this one on the bottom here does move a bit better and without popping off. So next up, we of course have some movement on the ankle here. Some really just up and down, not so much back and forth, but it does make up for it with the toe itself. It has like an extra joint there, so this actually comes in handy with some crouching poses and whatnot. I'll show it off later when we get to the verdict. That's usually what I kind of play around the poses. Almost forgot the waist. So the waist can move side to side, if not 360. Move 360. It can move forward and back. And not so much side to side, it's a little wiggle, but I don't know if that's movement that's intended or not. But I believe that's it for articulation. I don't think I missed out on anything. If I did, hopefully I'll remember to go into it before this review is over. So accessories, I guess I'll go with this first accessory I could think of. I forget which one is which, but these shoulder armor here is not just for show. A shoulder, wrist armor, whatever you'd call this. This little gauntlet looking thing here. So see if I can remember how to get this thing out properly. Okay, So you can open these drawers out here, and as you can see, they're both independently articulated, and then you can pop it out for good measure as well. And then that reveals that there are some wrist-mounted grenades in there. I know it's kind of hard to see, it's the gray on gray, but if you actually kind of shake it, they do come out. So there you go. And a strange thing they did was they actually have 4 sets of these, or 4 sets, I keep saying sets for everything. There's 2 sets of these things, 4 in total. So if you wanted, you could actually put these on the other side as well. I, of course, only put the 2 grenades in here, and then the other side, which I'm going to show off right now. Son, the hand, of course, it's okay. I'm going to take that off anyway. So the other side actually has beam sabers stored in here. So these ones are actually a lot easier to see. And I'm going to actually go ahead and show that off right now. But it comes with 2 clear pink beams. And if you wanted to, you can insert those beams in here. So if you want to give them like a wrist-mounted blade, you can do that. Kind of make them look like Wolverine or something. And of course, you pop. One thing I have to mention, you kind of have to slide these out in order for the beam sabers to come out. But you, of course, now have the beam sabers in here. And one interesting thing they did do, because again, this is a premium Bandai kit, so with premium Bandai especially, there's a lot of leftover parts. I'm not going to show off how many leftover parts, but it's a lot to the point where you can almost make the shield. Unfortunately, it's missing 1 plate, which holds a lot of crucial components to make a shield, so you cannot make the shield, but you actually might be able to make the standard backpack for the Jegan. I'd have to go get a manual or look up a manual for the Jegan to be able to do it. I looked at the one for the normal Jegan and it didn't quite match up, but I think the Type D's manual might be able to give you the know-how to make the backpack. So eventually I will see if that's possible. But yeah, so this thing has 2 extra beam sabers. So if you wanted, you would be able to have 4 of them. It wouldn't quite make sense to do so, but it's an option. And one thing I was curious about is, because this thing, again, I was able to make extra armor for it. Like here's one for the grenade rack as well. So I think in theory, you might just be able to put these on. So I'm gonna check that out in a second here. This thing is really tight, but as you can see, the grenades can come off. So we're gonna try it out with this one here. I'll pop this out. This thing is really tight, but just kind of swivel that off. And if I'm not mistaken, I should be able to, yep, looks like it. Oh, hold on, I put that on right. There we go. Okay, so if you wanted to, you could give this thing standard Jegan equipment with these side armors here. And I'm just gonna do it with the grenade rack here as well. So voila. So that is an option. So if you wanted to change up the equipment for the side armor and whatnot, you can do that. So that's actually pretty cool. I'm of course gonna revert this guy back to standard equipment for the rest of the review. Especially since again, I'm gonna bring out the high grade version of this guy, so it'd be better to have them 1 of 1 for that comparison. But again, this thing has 2 holding hands for the beam sabers, but I'm only gonna bring out 1 of them. I believe this is the right one. No, this is, wait, there we go. Okay. Now, a little disclaimer, I have not ever put the beam sabers in this thing's hands before, so excuse me if it doesn't quite pan out right. So let me see. I honestly tested out everything but this, but as you can see, there's actually no pegs in this thing, yet it holds the beam sabers just fine. So that is very good to know. So you'll be able to pull off some nice poses with this beam saber as a result. Now, for the next accessory, we're gonna go ahead and look at the beam gun or beam rifle. They call everything a rifle, even though it don't look like one I mean. But this has the plastic sticker in there. Now, one thing to mention is it has a clear blue jewel inside here, but they tell you to put the plastic sticker over it. The main reason why I did that is, see, as this thing uses so much with the Jegan Type D, I'm gonna honestly go ahead and spoil it. Eventually, I'm gonna end up getting one, and what I do, I'm sure that one's not gonna have a sticker placed over that part. So I decided, you know what? Why not make the rifles look different? So, as you can see, I already have the hand for the beam rifle in there. So just to speed things up, all I have to do is pop in that little piece here. And again, I want to say there's a peg for this thing, but regardless, it holds in just fine, as you can see here. And actually, I'm gonna put this beam saver back in. So the next accessory we're going to be doing here is the grenade launcher. Now this thing only had one standard sticker, and that's for this little ribbon here around the bazooka. So honestly, you could probably just paint that, especially this part right here. It feels like this is probably a sticker too, because I'm sure you can see that little recess there. It just looks like it's supposed to have a gray sticker over it as well. But as you can see here, the handle does have some movement to it. And I'm gonna actually take up the beam saber for this one. I showed off earlier, this thing has multiple hands for holding its accessories. The beam rifle can only be held in the right hand because that's an exclusive hand that you're supposed to use for it. But for the weapon itself here, the bazooka, let me see. This thing's a little complicated to get in because it has this peg. I think you're supposed to hold it from the front, if I'm not mistaken. This doesn't feel right though. I know I got this thing in. Let me see. I want to say this should be it. But yeah, they tell you to put the bazooka on in the left hand. I'm sorry, the right hand, but you can't put it in the left hand. It holds. I put that in kind of awkwardly, but hold on. If I spin it around, it should be able to go under the arm still. There we go. So again, you can't hold the bazooka. It's a little awkward in the left hand, but again, it is doable. And again, none of these have any issues holding. Of course, as the bazooka is so long, it's a little floppy, but it holds in just fine. But then the next accessory, I should say the last accessory, honestly, is going to be the base adapter. So this is, of course, just for getting this thing on an action base. So below it, if you can make that out, there's a little recessed piece there that you'd use to put this thing on. So you just would snap this thing in here. There we go. And I'm gonna go ahead and grab an ironic but fitting action base here. This is, of course, going to be the unicorn action base. So I'm gonna go ahead and slide this thing. Oops. I can actually make sure this thing, there we go. So pop this thing in a little crevice there, and as you can see, we now have this guy airborne. Let me actually just move the camera. I think that'd be a little easier. So he holds up in there just as well as any other kit would for these action bases. A little floppy, but it will never drop. So I'm actually gonna take this piece off. This thing's getting in here so tight. I tend to just leave this thing in here. There we go. All right. So that's really it for this guy. Going to the verdicts here. I am going to recommend this thing. I am not going to highly recommend it. So what I mean by that is, although I recommend it to people who, let's say, are fans of the Jegan or the Stark Jegan in particular, or really just Earth Federation suits, especially grunts, I'd say definitely pick this thing up, but it's not a must buy in a sense of, you know, whether you're a fan of this Gundam or what have you, if you're a model, or pick it up, no. It's nothing too revolutionary. It, of course, uses a lot of the stuff from the original release of the Jegan itself, and more in particular the Jegan Type D. So it's nothing too revolutionary. If you have any of those two kits, you're not missing out on this thing, like, at all. However, of course, if, again, you're like me, you were waiting for them to make more Master Grade releases of the Jegan or just the Stark Jegan here in general, you know, you're going to want to pick this thing up. If I'm not mistaken, this thing is out on P Bandai right now. I'll actually probably put a link to that in the description. So you'll be able to go ahead and pick this thing up and add to your collection if you're interested. Again, I recommend it. I personally think it's worth picking up for those people who are interested in this guy. But at the risk of not rambling on too much, because again, I can't say enough that I do recommend it, just not to everyone. That's just my honest opinions. I don't want to say I recommend it and everyone clever to go buy it and, you know, it's not for them. I'm going to go ahead and do some size comparisons to end this thing out on. So, first up, of course, we're going to do the Stark Jegan itself. And I'm actually going to go ahead and put the bazooka on this arm. Actually, yeah, you know, no, I'll put the bazooka on first. I'll play around with it in a second. But, because I never showed if this thing could go over the shoulder. And technically one thing it can do. So, of course, it fits in just fine there. And look at these two. First of all, the proportions are a little different on this guy here. You can tell just by looking at the top of the head there. Those look a little different. And that's one thing I also wanted to mention. This thing has a clear blue piece for back here, but it's like blocked by this big old forehead thing. So I'm like kind of confused. What's the point of them having what looks to be a camera there? Like, you can't see. I mean, I guess that'd be good if someone's trying to hide on this part of the head, but I don't know. It just seems kind of redundant to me. But just look at this thing. As you can see, besides the fact I did a lot less coloring on this than the high grade, they do look very similar in proportions. They're not too off. The colors, again, are a bit different. Like I said, this one is brownish, where this is just straight up gray. You can just see just how, again, like some of the shapes and whatnot are a bit different. You know, this one's more flat, where this one has a bit more thickness to it. The pods are even shaped a bit different. And you can see just a bit more of the detail that you'll be able to ink out because this is a Master Grade. And again, it's just overall, this is one of the reasons why I'm glad they made a Master Grade. It's just some of that Master Grade quality that you just, you know, a high grade would never be able to capture, you know. So, you know, it just looks so, I don't know, just better in the Master Grade form. I just feel like everything does, but of course, I still will have both versions of this thing on my shelf, although this guy probably pushed way further in the back, not just for scaling purposes. And I, of course, want to compare this thing to another Master Grade, so that is going to be the Zaku 2.0, Dozo Zombie version. So one thing to keep in mind is the Jegan came out in the mid-UC century, and that's where they kind of started scaling up mobile suits. So as you can see, the Jegan is a bit bigger than this guy, especially if you didn't count that antenna. So they are the same scale, 1 to 100, whereas that the other Jegan I had was 1 to 144. And again, one thing I wanted to point out, because I forgot to mention this actually, is you can remove these missile pods. They aren't kind of stuck or what have you. And the process to doing that is, first of all, you want to take out the missile pods. They can go on either shoulder. It's just a certain way you're supposed to put them in. You then can take out the shoulder armor like so. And one cool thing about these are they are in good enough to where they won't fall out, but they're not in so good that it takes a lot of force to take them out. As you can see, I took basically no effort to get those things out. And as you can see, you can now reenact a scene in a show where, oh boy, that's one thing. This armor kind of pops out a little easy if you touch it a little too hard. But anyway, it still retains that armor on it for the shoulders, so it looks like the Stark Jegan still. It doesn't look like, you know, the Type D when you take the armor off. And again, you're not gonna do the scene from the show where if Father could saturate it, purge the armor to kind of give itself a bit of a speed boost. As you can imagine, all this extra armor on it, you know, it'll slow the thing down. Hence why it has so many thrusters around it compared to a standard Jegan. And not only does this kind of slim this guy down, but it just really looks cool like this, honestly. And I never showed this thing off, and actually I never even played with it like this, but with, of course, that armor going, you'd be able to put this bazooka over his shoulder a lot easier. I think you probably still would be able to with the pods on, but if you were to have more of a classical over-the-shoulder look with this bazooka, you can now do so. But again, at the risk of me not rambling on and going a little too long with this review, that is going to be it, folks. This has been a Rare Model Reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. And stay tuned for the next review.